All right, and we should be live right now. Hello to anybody watching. Hopefully, there's somebody watching. And if you're watching in the archives, if you're watching this like later tonight or anytime, welcome. This is the first episode of a brand new show. I'm calling it Couch Potatoes for now. I'm not sure if it's gonna stay that way. We'll see how people like it. So basically, the idea of the show is that me and someone I really admire and like that I follow on social media chat for like a half an hour while watching a TV show, kind of like when you're at home and you just like throw the TV on the background and you're just talking to your friend or your family member or whoever. And so my first guest today on the very first episode is Fritzi Kramer from Movie Silently, who I adore and follow on Twitter. Uh, can you
Hi.
hear us? Hi. Okay, I was gonna say hi.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah. I
hopefully you
didn't
can. You heard all that, right? You can.
Yes, I didn't wanna
Okay.
step
No,
over
no, no.
your introduction.
You're good. I just wanted to make sure. I was so afraid that I was just talking into nothingness.
Oh,
So because like I said, this is the first time. Like I've tested this Google Hangout live thing before, but I've never actually done it. So before we get started, I'm just gonna look on my phone to make sure we're actually live right now. I'm just gonna check the page.
and I've been warning everyone that the internet in my area is a little spotty, so sometimes I get just suddenly dropped in the middle of a podcast or something. So, yeah, if I suddenly, you know, tap out or something,
Mhm.
many apologies, and I can blame my rural area.
Okay. I mean, so far it looks pretty good. Like our call quality before we started was like pretty clear.
Yeah.
So hopefully it goes good. Again, we're only doing this for like another 25 minutes, so it shouldn't be too long. So like I said before, we're gonna watch a TV show together, and of course, because we both love Flash Gordon, I just picked a random Flash Gordon episode to watch that I have available on my site as well. So you ready?
Yes.
All right, so let's just start this up. The little intro I made this afternoon.
So I have only seen the serials and the films for Flash
Mm-hmm.
Gordon. I've never seen the TV show, so
You know,
this is gonna be interesting.
yeah, the show honestly, I mean, it had a 50s TV budget, so it's honestly not as good.
Mhm.
But like when I was purchasing films and TV shows and stuff last year for the first time to like, distribute, like I just wanted anything with Flash Gordon on it, like because I'm such a big fan of the character.
Mhm.
And so I was just like, I've never seen the show, but I'll take it. It says Flash Gordon. Why not?
Yeah, 'cause I think of the '50s television sci-fi, of course, who did I really like? Um, Rocky Jones is sort of gloriously, cheesy.
Yeah, I think I'm getting that one next because I literally just ordered some new stuff this morning. I think he said he was gonna throw that in because the guy I buy from is pretty cool. Like he literally threw in like free stuff last time. Like I ordered like Superman cartoons and stuff because I love Max Fleischer, and
Mhm.
he was just like, "Here, take them for free."
Oh, cool,
I
cool.
know because he was just like, "Oh, you're ordering so much stuff. Yeah, I'll give you discounts. I'll give you free stuff." Like,
Oh, that's
why?
nice.
I know he's been really nice too, and he was like nice yesterday. I literally ordered from him yesterday at like 4 o'clock, and he says it's already in the mail this morning.
So we have stock snake footage.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less
Yes.
for stock footage for TV because the TV budget, like I said.
Mhm.
Because I think this show, I only have 14 episodes. I think that's all there is. There might be a little bit more, but the show definitely didn't last more than a season.
Well, with the Flash Gordon serial, they reused a lot of stuff too. Like, for example, they reused they and kept reusing footage of the White Hell of Pitzpaloo, which was a German silent film. Like
Hmm.
like all the winter scenes that look really wintry, like they actually had money. Those are all from the German film.
Yeah, and I think even like I was reading up the last time I was watching the original serial, like even like the opening credits for that serial just has reused footage from like other movies Universal had done before.
Hmm.
And even though that apparently like that Universal claimed that Flash Gordon 36 was the most like expensive production they had, like it was still pretty cheap for 4 hours of content.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, they made up for it in wackiness, right?
Yeah, no, I love that serial so much. That was actually the very first serial I ever watched.
Mm, mine was Nyoka and the Tigerman, or The Perils
Oh,
of Nyoka.
I think I've seen part of that one. Sadly, I don't think the guy that I buy my stuff from has that, but I've seen that on YouTube before. Like I saw the first part of that one.
And Grapevine, I think, released a Blu-ray.
Okay, yeah, no, I need to buy some more because I have a couple cereals. I have that I own physically. I have the Shadow one starring
Mhm.
Victor Jory on DVD, and then I have the Adventures of Captain Marvel on Blu-ray that I purchased before the new Captain Marvel movie came out.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah, that's such a good Blu-ray. Like it's so crazy how crystal clear that is.
Mhm.
And I think it's a shame that more serials can't get restored to that level because people just don't care.
Yeah, it's well, see, they're seen as kind of lesser entertainment, like just filler, and the thing is that if they would actually listen to filmmakers like George Lucas was enormous. I mean, that's not a secret or a big revelation, but he was so influenced by serials. And when you see his Flash Gordon serial, because that's actually how I got into it. I was a tiny, tiny child, and I love Star Wars. And my dad's like, "I'm going to show you the original," and he did, and I fell in love. But you know, it shows you that that's a gateway. You know,
Yeah,
they're so influential.
yeah, no, because I grew up watching like the Star Wars movies on VHS. We had that three VHS collection,
Hmm.
but sadly it was like the remastered ones from '97. So it
Mm-hmm.
had the little 10-minute thing before the movie starts. This is how we completely redid the whole thing.
Yeah.
But like as kids, like we didn't care like that
Hmm.
he had added stuff in there. Like we just enjoyed watching the movies like as a family
Hmm.
over and over again.
Yeah.
Um, and so I mean, I can't even remember the first time I watched Star Wars. Like that's how long ago it was. Like it was so already ingrained, like in my head.
Hmm.
Like and how we had watched it so many times as a family. Like I probably was like a toddler when I first watched Star Wars.
Yeah. My family, I don't think we got a television until I was like 5 or 6. So I do remember seeing things for the first time. We actually got a computer first. We were a very strange family.
Oh, okay,
Very
that's
nerdy.
cool.
Yeah. And so, it was the 80s, and of course everyone was into Star Wars, and we had this little like independent station in the area, and by coincidence, they played a lot of cliffhanger serials because they were cheap, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so they played Nyoka and the Tigerman, they played G-Man versus the Black Dragon is excellent, and things like that. And
Wow.
yeah.
I haven't even heard of the Black Dragon before.
Oh,
That's
it's
crazy.
fantastic.
I bet. Oh,
Oh,
that's
it's
crazy.
marvelous.
Okay.
It's like, a Japanese spy ring during the Second World War, and a combined team of American and Chinese spies tried to smash the spies, and you watch them hilariously mispronounce Fuji,
Oh
and,
my gosh.
you know, you're like, "Oh, heavens," but it has some really nice cliffhangers, some really good fight scenes, and, um, the heroine actually gets to use a Tommy gun, so that's cool.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, no, because I just started recently getting into serials.
Uh-huh.
I think 2012. 2012 was when I first saw the Flash Gordon serial. Because that's like a year after I had graduated high school. Like I was at home filling out like applications trying to get a job, and the 1980 Flash Gordon movie came on TV, and I had always heard the name Flash Gordon, never seen anything, had no idea what I was getting into, and then ended up falling in love with that movie to
Mhm.
the point where it's still in my top 10 favorite movies of all time.
Mhm.
And then later that year, I was doing more research on it because I'm like, I want to watch everything Flash Gordon. And then I discovered movie serials. I'm like, I don't know what a movie serial is, but I want to watch it. And the funny thing is, the first time I watched the original Flash Gordon serial was ironically on Netflix because they actually did have all of them on there at one point.
Mhm.
Obviously, they don't anymore. They would never put that on now. But back in 2012, they had all the Flash Gordon serials.
They had a lot of good stuff back then.
Yeah, so I spent like a whole Thanksgiving like just watching the original Flash Gordon, and that's just a good memory.
Now, of the 3 original serials, which one's your favorite?
Oh, it's hard because I really love the original because that was the first one I had watched. But like when you especially watch it now, you're like, oh, those animals were probably abused. Like that makes me feel really weird about liking this.
Mhm.
But like as far as story, I probably like that one the most. I really like Conquers the Universe. I got to really watch that
Mhm,
one at length now that I've been able to purchase it and distribute it and like have to edit up clips for Twitter and stuff.
mhm. I like, Flash Gordon's Trip to Mars, despite the presence of the absolutely dreary, quote, unquote, "comedy relief" of Happy Hapgood.
Oh yeah, I think I only watched like the first part of that one, and
Yeah.
then I was like, oh no. Eh,
Yeah, we're gonna have a funny guy. Oh gosh, no, I did not care for that one, but I really enjoyed the plot line, and I think there was more. Um, I think there was more tenseness in the plot. Like it was, I think there was a little more suspense in it than there has been in others because in Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe, what I mean, they're all wonderful, obviously, but I think there's less suspense about him eventually being victorious. You kind of know he will be. And in Flash Gordon's Trip to Mars, they throw a few kind of curveballs, plotting curveballs, because you have not one villain but two villains, and all these. So it's a little more. I don't know. I just felt that it moved along really well.
that's cool. Yeah, I need to
Yeah.
revisit that one because that's the only one that I haven't rewatched recently.
Uh huh.
Because like on Christmas, it was funny the at like 2 in the morning on Christmas, the Christmas Eve leading into Christmas, I uh I couldn't really sleep, and so it was like pouring rain outside. So I started watching the original Flash Gordon again,
Oh, nice.
and then the power went out, and
Oh.
I was the only one awake, so I had to go out into the rain to turn the generator on. And so
Oh.
I only slept like 3 hours that night, but then I woke up at like 6 a.m. And then I'm like, you know what? I might as well just keep watching Flash Gordon
Yeah. Why
until
not?
everyone else wakes up. Like, why not? Like, I'm the only one awake. Like, that's my reward for turning on the generator is that
Yeah.
the router is working and I get to watch Flash Gordon on YouTube.
That is that hair. He has used some hair product, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, no, you could tell.
Yeah.
I could just imagine the conversation on set that day where it was like, "Oh no, we need to make you look good," but they wouldn't have that then. No, but we need to make you look good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, anyone who wants to complain about Admiral Holdo's hair, right?
Yeah,
I
but
yeah. I'm kind of fascinated by the whole, I guess, ray gun gothic space aesthetic. I absolutely love it. With these kind of weird shoulder details and gold lame everything, and it's just kind of delightful.
exactly. And the funny thing is, like, when I was younger, like, I could tell I liked kind of Pulp Fiction stuff like this,
Mhm,
but I had no idea what it was called. Like, I would see, like, certain comics or, like, a poster for something, or, like, there was that video game Dark Void that came out, like, in the early 2000s where the guy has,
mhm,
like, a jetpack. It's supposed to look like, like a Rocketeer or King of the Rocketmen type aesthetic.
mhm, mhm.
And I was always like, oh, I like things like that, but I had no idea that it was called pulp, that like it came from the turn of the century, like that had all this history. And I think that's what fascinated me after learning about Flash Gordon was to be like, oh, there's all these other things and they're all connected to one another.
Right, right. Yeah, and you've got, what's it? You've got a Princess of Mars kind of at the root of a lot of it,
Yes, I
and
love I love John Carter. I mean, I
yeah,
know the Disney movie wasn't perfect, but like it's really the only thing I got. So I
yeah.
still love it for its flaws.
We're not gonna get a good John Carter, I don't think. The
No.
ship sailed, like, I think if it had been made in the 20s or 30s, it would have been amazing.
Yes, I was actually thinking about that. I was like, man, how was this never a movie serial in 1930? Like, that's so crazy. I guess because so many things had taken inspiration from it, like, even at that
Mhm.
point, it had become old hat.
Yeah, and I think maybe it might have been an issue with obtaining the rights,
Probably
possibly. Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
only now in the public domain.
yeah, yeah, and because I know Tarzan did fantastically
Oh, yeah,
in the
definitely.
silent
They,
era.
they made so many.
Yeah, and, like, I'm kind of a sucker for the original. I love Elmo Lincoln, even though he's a bit, he's not exactly what you would call, you know, cut or,
Yeah,
well built, but, there's something kind of wonderful about his performance.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think that's a little more realistic because, like,
Yeah.
definitely, like, even in some of the stuff I purchased but did not distribute, he has like slicked back hair. Like, you could tell he
Yeah.
used hair gel and stuff, and he has like an 8 pack, and you're like,
Mhm.
I don't think that's what a guy living in the jungle would look like.
Mhm. Oh,
Oh,
there's poor Dr. Zarkov. He's always imperiled.
I know. I feel so bad for him all the time, even
Yeah.
especially in the movie where they're wiping out his brain. I love that sequence so much.
Yeah, and you're like, "Come on.
I
Give
know.
Zarkov a break."
But then I love like 20 minutes later where he's like, "No, I just started singing a song and I was okay." I'm like, "Okay, I'm okay with that."
No suspense.
Yeah, and
In space, we have T-shirts with matching logos. That's good to
yeah,
know.
I was surprised to see that the T-shirt had was like this far back. I thought that was something that they created for the 1980 movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of cool. I wish they'd sell them, like, in this exact style.
Oh, that yeah, that exact one. Yeah, because I know they have like the 1980 ones. Like you can get those on
Yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah, I'd like to get a see, I'm not feeling Dale's outfit. I'm totally not feeling it. I'm sorry. I'm such a I'm a movie costume nerd a little bit.
Oh no, that's
So
great. That's partially why I wanted you on the
yeah.
show because of your expertise.
Oh yeah, I just I want more with I mean, I realized they were on a television budget, but couldn't they add a few doodads? I like I like a little more tackiness in the sort of this ray gun aesthetic. You know,
Uh-huh.
she's got the raised collar, but I want kind of, little what are those little fluttery things on the shoulders? I want some of those, and
Yeah.
the boots are too short. No, 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 this won't work at all. Like, that's what cracked me up about, Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe is well, all the Flash Gordon movies, you can tell what other movies Universal was making
Yeah,
based
exactly.
based on what they reuse, and they were all Robin Hood suddenly. You know, they had because in the first 2 serials, they were kind of Roman, which meant a lot of men in diapers, and so then when the 3rd one came out, they were doing Robin Hood, and oh
Oh my
oh,
god, it's Beauty and the Beast.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
it's Ron Perlman.
Oh no. Oh gosh. That's I did not expect to see that.
Yeah, well, they probably borrowed these sets speaking of Tarzan, they probably did borrow them from a Tarzan production,
Oh,
right?
probably.
Mhm.
That wouldn't surprise me.
This is the old Star Trek trick, or Star Trek is the Flash Gordon trick, right? Reusing the sets.
Oh, yeah? Yeah,
Yeah.
looks like it. Oh, this is so weird. Okay. That's at least they gave
Yeah.
him pants. I don't know what to
Well
say.
well, that's good. That's more than we got in the original with the Lion Man, right?
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, I you know what? That makeup job isn't too bad seeing this is was 50s TV, I guess.
Yeah, I mean
Oh, stock footage.
yeah. Oh, he's calling his beasts.
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
And then
Is
she's
it
making stew. Oh, no.
Of course.
That's awful. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
We
he's
just learned that wolf people exist. Let's make stew.
yeah, and it cracks me up, you honestly wonder how these guys would ever survive in the wild.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I love.
if they didn't have a woman on their ship?
Oh, have you ever seen a Radar Men from the Moon?
Yes.
Yes, I love that great part. I even clipped that out. I put it on Twitter a couple times where they're like, "Space is no place for a woman," and she's like, "Well, who's gonna cook for you?" And he's like, "Okay, never mind." And they just let her go because of that.
It's like, clearly you have qualifications.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite clips of all time because
Yeah.
I mean it was the 50s, so she didn't have a lot of comebacks, but she had that.
Yeah.
She had that to have the upper hand.
Yeah, it's like, "Okay, you wanna play gender roles? You'll have to live with their gender roles." Yeah, and oh, what's another really good one is, have you seen, Canadian Mounties versus Atomic Invaders?
I have the trailer for that. I
Uh-huh.
was able to release. I actually released a whole bunch of Republic serial trailers on Christmas morning,
Mhm.
because that was one of the things that the guy gave to me for free. Like he's like here, and it's literally just an hour of uncut like trailers from
Oh,
Republic.
cool.
And so that was one of I haven't been able to see the full serial, but I've watched that trailer multiple times.
Mhm.
Because I have a weird obsession with Canada in the first place.
Mhm.
I don't know why. I live in California, but I'm like, Canada's so cool. So like when that came up, I'm like, yeah, Canada's really cool.
Yeah.
They're like blowing stuff up and driving boats and whatnot.
Yeah. It's one of those shows, it's really funny because for some inexplicable reason, I don't know the exact I don't remember the exact year or the political climate of that particular year, but they were so like hesitant to name who the villain was because in other things I've seen, they're saying, Russian spies and stuff like that. And in that one, it's like, they're like, my country, yes, my country, my leader, my country, my leader. They never name the country, and it starts to become incredibly awkward and humorous.
Oh,
Oh,
that's funny.
looks like he doesn't like his food.
No.
Typical cat.
That's yeah, no, that's just like a cat.
Yeah.
So how many pets do you have total?
Oh, 6.
6. Yeah, because I love all the pictures
Oh, thank you.
of your pets. Like I love pets, but I would love to have a pet, but I'm one of those people that's like too afraid I'm gonna get emotionally attached and then they're gonna pass and then I'm just
Mhm.
gonna crumble as a person. Like
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think part of responsible pet ownership is knowing what you can handle, even if
exactly.
that means not having a pet, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, for me, I mean, we've always had a lot of pets. My parents are big animal rescuers. And so, uh, like, I don't want to say I got used to it, but it happened at a pretty young age where I knew that cat animals wouldn't last forever.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I mean, I'm still a wreck every time it happens, but
Oh no, I couldn't. I can't even imagine, honestly. Like, but I
yeah,
don't. But it's nice to go to other people's houses and play with their pets, and then go home.
yeah,
That way, you never have to think about it.
yeah. Mine, but they're good boys. I didn't mean to have an all male menagerie, but that's just what happened. There's this weird shortage in like the general area. Like, there's this really weird shortage of female animals.
Really, that's weird.
Yeah, like I would go because I am looking for another dog, because my other dog is older and I don't want my younger one to be alone, and I only want females because it would just work better. Oh my. Hmm.
That's some pretty bad scratch makeup.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's like,
almost like
okay.
someone took some lipstick from off the
Yeah,
set and just put it on his face.
yeah. And now I am not. Also, Dr. Zarkov needs to stand up straight. His posture is
Yeah,
terrible.
I think that's partially his shirt's a little too big, so it's like
Mm,
frumping in the front.
mm. No, no, no.
Yeah,
They
that's
see. I'm loving the T-shirt though.
yeah.
I
No, that's great.
Yeah, it's just fantastic, and I love the whole T-shirt belt slacks combo. He's the only one though who's like really got it going.
Yeah.
Yeah, the others I'm kind of eh.
I think it's because his clothes are the most form fitting to him.
Mhm.
Everyone else is just like, okay, wear this. Like you're not the main character of the show. Don't worry about it. Just put it on.
It may have even been stock costumes from the
That wouldn't
department.
surprise me at all.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
'cause but yeah, it happens with the.
yeah, I mean, again, it was 50s TV. Like they were still trying to figure out what they were doing or what TV was going to ever become.
Mhm,
And so, I mean, obviously, there's going to be growing pains, and there still kind of is because I think TV still isn't 100% sure what
mhm,
it is at the moment. Like, are we long movies? Are we
mhm.
episodic? Are we serialized? Like,
Yeah, what are you?
yeah, it's just weird because even like we're going through a really weird phase. You probably don't watch much modern TV, but they're doing this thing where they'll put out a mini series, but then if the miniseries works, they renew it for another season and add on to a story that doesn't exist.
How
And
annoying.
so they did that with Stephen King's Under the Dome, which was a book that they did the whole story in the first season because it was supposed to be a miniseries. And then Big Little Lies, they're doing HBO's doing that right now, where the whole book was the first season, but then they renewed it for another season.
Like, I think didn't they do that with Handmaid's Tale too, where the first book was the first season and then they made more?
I'm not sure. I haven't watched that yet. I know everyone is telling me to do so, but
Um,
like
yeah, I see. I do not like dystopian or post-apocalyptic. Those are my two no's. You know.
yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense for both you and me because obviously we watch Pulp Fiction stuff as escapism,
Hmm.
and that kind of dystopian stuff turns it on its head and turns it into satire, which satire is fine every once in a while. I do enjoy satire, but I don't. I think I like escapism a little bit more.
Hmm. I well, also my problem too with so much dystopia is it's kind of a reversal of the old saying where they say all happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. In this case, all happy science fiction is different. And it seems
Yeah.
like all dystopian science fiction is pretty much, it runs together. And I'll probably get in trouble for that because I'll say, I'll have you know. But to me, it all runs together. Yes, yes, you're short on water. Yes, Bad kitty, bad kitty. Uh,
Yeah.
oh, there's the monkey.
Oh my gosh. That it looks like that's probably the only animal they can get in studio for the
Yeah.
episode. That's funny.
Now, um, they should have just brought a squirt bottle. That would have helped.
Oh yeah. See that I don't think they sell those in space though, so Flash
Yeah.
Gordon was out of luck. Oh my gosh, this is
Oh, I love
crazy.
the hand raised ladder. In the
Yeah.
cereal, at least they had their little thing go, "Pew."
Yeah. But again, I think that's people trying to figure out how how to do a
How to
TV
buy.
show. Yeah.
Yes, we
Um,
have no money.
no,
It's
and yeah,
it's
just make magic happen.
yes.
And then every once in a while, they actually would.
Oh gosh, I forget what that thing is called. See, I'm
I
calling it a monkey, and it's not a monkey.
I
It's
think
something.
it's a lemur.
Oh, okay.
Like on that PBS show, I don't even remember the name of the show, but there was a PBS
Mhm.
show when I was growing up in the '90s that had a lemur character. So I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Is he their pet, or did he come from the
I
planet? I
I
didn't know.
think he snuck onto the ship. I think that's where he popped up. He climbed up the ladder while they were fighting.
Oh, dudes, have you not seen Aliens? This is not a good idea.
I know it's just gonna attach to their face. Oh
Yeah.
no!
I do, and one of the things I really enjoy about science fiction is spotting, "Oh, hey, they got a monkey, yay, yay."
Yay! And I
It
think there's only like one episode after that, so then I don't know
oh,
how that went.
yeah, so but I do enjoy seeing how they used Earth stuff to mimic space stuff. Like, you see a lot of dragon fruit in science fiction
Oh yeah,
and things like that.
I know people still react weird to that because I work at a grocery store for my day job, and people are always
Mhm.
like, "Dragon fruit, I don't understand." I'm like, "You've never seen it before?"
It's so
That's
good.
yeah.
I
So
got
let
I got the best one the other day.
oh yeah,
Yeah, it was, uh it was at a Korean market, and it was perfect.
nice. I have not eaten it yet.
It's like between a cucumber and a kiwi in flavor.
Interesting. Okay. I'm not a huge fan of either, but I'll try it
Oh,
probably
okay
at some
then.
point.
Yeah, then
It's okay. Okay, so before we go, since I have your site up here right now, how about you tell
Yay,
people
thank
a little
you.
about what you do?
Oh, well, I talk way too much about silent movies, and my basic goal is to, kind of celebrate the, um, the whole silent era, not just focus on art films or just comedy, but to enjoy, like Pulp, and I do a few serials, not a ton. I've done I like to cover, uh, films from countries that don't get a lot of coverage, like, I reviewed the only surviving silent film from Bolivia. I just had an opportunity to watch all of the surviving finished silent films, so I'm working my way through that. So, I'm trying to kind of build a huge examination of the era, and I try to have fun doing it. I post gifs, I post vintage recipes, and I have discussions, and I just try to make it as lively and fun as possible so that modern people can experience a little bit of what people at the time experienced. Just the joy and fun of watching these movies.
Yeah, no, that's really important because that's what I'm realizing lately. Because I launched my site back in September,
Mhm.
and I mean, it took me a little bit to realize, oh, if you throw it out there, people aren't just going to gravitate towards it. Like you have to make it fun for them.
Right.
And that's part of the goal of this show. That's why we're watching, old '50s pulp shows on here. Is that I want to repurpose them? Like I want to make them more fun. I want to show people that like this isn't something from 100 years ago. Like it really does have roots in what you read and watch now,
Mhm.
and you wouldn't have certain things if Pulp Fiction writers didn't pave the way prior.
Yes. That's the thing. Um, there's a tendency to, even when they're, if they don't actually say it, go out and say it's worthless, but just by ignoring it,
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's
Because
kind of yeah.
like most people who talk about film history, or even if you watch like a documentary on film history, they won't mention serials at all, as if they
Mhm,
didn't exist.
mhm,
Like I didn't learn about them until 2012, and my mind was kind of blown.
mhm.
And even in the past few years, learning about Pulp Fiction and books and movies and like all this stuff, like I realized like media today would be almost non-existent if it weren't for pulp writers.
Yeah.
Because I was actually gonna, like, before I started my business distributing pulp stuff, I was going to start a business where I helped people distribute short films that they made today, because
Mhm,
that's a really difficult thing to do. If you make a short film, you like, yeah, it goes into a film festival, but like after that, like there's no possible way for you to make money on it.
mhm.
And I still want to do that eventually, but then like in the last couple of years, like when Valerian and the Valerian movie came out, and the Last Jedi came out, and those were so heavily influenced by Pulp Fiction, and then people just didn't get it,
Yeah.
and it broke my heart.
Yeah, I know, there are so many references, like and I know in my case, most of what I know about it is because of my dad, because he watched them when he was a kid. You know, he went to the theater every Saturday with his quarter that bought him admission and some snacks, and he'd watch the serials and the westerns and things like that. So it's I mean, there is some coverage and, like, for example, the Serial Squadron and places like that, they're doing a lot of really great work, but it's really, they don't get a lot of respect and, it's like, look, we know they're a little bit corny, we know the costumes are a little silly, but there's a lot of passion and enthusiasm there, and there's just fun, and there's something to be said for that.
Exactly, because I do love and respect Serial Squadron. Like I seen them on YouTube before. I've been to their website,
Mhm.
but like I wanted to just do things a little differently than them,
Yeah.
because I
Oh,
know they
definitely.
they do strictly like DVD releases, which is
Mhm.
awesome. But the thing is, like, especially if you've never seen serials before and you're not emotionally attached to them, you're not going to go out of your way to purchase them.
Mhm.
That's why I wanted to do strictly streaming. That way me and them can both exist in the same field, while kind of like showing people serials to two different kinds of people.
Yeah, well, I think too, it's important to have as many people as possible involved because you're going to all focus on different things.
Exactly.
Like for example, Ben Modell does Undercrank Productions, and his specialty is like really obscure slapstick uh, silent films, which is fantastic. He's finding all of these people whose movies have not been released in like 100 years, and like for me, I want to focus on the average. Like, what was an average movie-going experience? And I know it doesn't sound too exciting when I say average, but I think we're so used to seeing the extremes in silent film that there's sort of this mystery surrounding what people actually watched on an average night at the movies.
Exactly. I mean, that's similarly with like Pulp Fiction. Like the reason it was written and the reason it was distributed the way it was for people with less money, who
Hmm.
didn't have a lot of money, could get a book for a dime, literally.
Right. Exactly.
And I mean, like I said, if people never did that, you wouldn't have Star Wars. You wouldn't have superhero movies. You wouldn't have Indiana Jones. You literally wouldn't have any material for blockbuster movies nowadays.
It's true. It's true. Well, I mean, comic books, they weren't exactly getting much respect until very recently.
Oh yeah, but it's just kind of
Mhm.
crazy when you see like the roots
Yes.
that they had in Pulp Fiction, like
Yes.
how Pulp Fiction writers set everything up for what 30, 40 years before
Yes.
before Superman premiered, before Batman premiered.
Mhm.
Um like it's just crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and there's something to be said for just kind of, because a lot of them didn't have a lot of time for revisions or anything like that, so the writing isn't always the smoothest, but they come up with some really bonkers plotting, and there's something to be said for that, just something that comes off the top of your head and is so nuts, and you're like, "Okay, we're going with this, man," you know?
Exactly. That's what I love about Pulp Fiction is
Yeah.
that it's not perfect,
Mhm.
but literally as a writer, as a director, you can literally use your imagination to make anything.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's what Pulp Fiction writers do, even if it's not perfect. They just do something crazy and over the
Yeah.
top. And it's like, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna put all this time and effort and money into creating something, why not go a little crazy?
Yeah, let's have some fun here.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, they had a there's this really wonderful it's not a serial, but it is an action film. It was made in, Veracruz, Mexico, and it's called The Ghost Train, and it's absolutely or The Phantom Train? Anyway, it's absolutely marvelous because it's just so crazy over the top. They have a leading man who would do his own stunts. I wouldn't recommend it. He, like, goes from a horse to a moving train, and you can tell he wasn't using a stunt man, and he
Oh,
was
that's
just doing
crazy.
it. Yeah, and because they're like they had no rules, so like, "Okay, let's just have some fun here. We have train robbers, we have horses, let's do something." And, in their plot. And yeah, it's absolutely marvelous because there's something very freeing about not having to deal with anything traditional, like, a plot that makes sense. Like, they just own it. They're like, "Okay, this doesn't make any sense. We're just gonna have action. Come on." You
Yeah.
know?
That's what I like. That's what I like about like silent films like that. Because the funny thing is, the reason I started following you on Twitter was because I thought to myself, I'm like, I really don't know anything about that era,
Uh-huh.
and I want to learn more. And I don't even remember who it was who started like sharing your stuff, and that's how I found out about your Twitter. Is someone kept retweeting you, and I'm like, sure, I should follow her.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did because it brought us to today, and I'm very glad I got to interview you.
Oh, thank you so much. It was
Uh,
fun.
yes, thank you. Yeah, I gotta get going out of this meeting room in a minute. Time's almost up, but thank you so much
Okay.
for being on here for letting me talk to you. I have your website in the description, so if anyone wants to visit, if they're watching this later, they can visit your site. I'm also going to put your Twitter account in there just in case they want to follow you on Twitter.
Okay.
Again, thank you very much for being here.
Okay, great.